Huge shout out to Brian here. He comes out before his races, takes photos of all the juniors and any race that he's not in, and then just posts it out to everybody. Doing it for the culture. Mad props to him. All right, we're jumping right into it here. You guys know the drill. This is the first race of the night for us. Cat 4-5, racing with some teammates. We got Bob, Micah, and Wally in the field. If you look in the rear cam, you'll see the Bloods, aka St. Al's. They got Talon and David in this race. And of course, it wouldn't be a Cat 4-5 race without the Birds. I'll zoom in here and you'll see Tim. He takes a flyer off the front, solo dolo. We're probably maybe 4 minutes into the race. And you can see in the rear cam, I mean, the entire field is still together. And so I don't think anybody thought that this was extremely threatening. We kept the pace high enough to keep him within arm's length. This is when things get a bit interesting. We've been letting Tim dangle. You can kind of see him up there in the front. And right before the race, we decided that we were going to be working for Micah. So you can see him and Wally in the rear cam. Right here, Chris in the red, he decides that he's sick of letting Tim dangle. And so he throws his attack. And the Birds, two Birds, follow that wheel. And then you got Bob in front of me, and he's following that wheel as well. So in order to keep Mike in contention, we need to keep this stitched up, and Bob does a fantastic job. I mean, I'm on his wheel and hitting 600 watts, and I didn't want to get cooked, and so I kind of let that gap open up a bit and let some other people come through. But the name of the game for us is keep this thing stitched up as best we can in order to hopefully do a lead out at the last lap for Micah. So that worked out great. You got Micah and Wally up there, a few wheels in front of me. Didn't have to do a whole lot of work just to stay right there in the mix for the last couple laps. A few laps later, it all comes back together. Micah goes over to Bob, gives him a pat on the back, says thank you for being awesome. I figure start slowing down. I'll throw this attack out. More than anything, I hadn't warmed up for this race. I went over to the registration tent, pinned my number on, and literally walked over to the start line. So I wanted to open the legs up a bit. Also wanted to see who wanted to play today. And of course you got this Birds rider who was really eager to jump on the wheel, did a great job. Once I saw that the whole field came along, I sat up. So a few minutes later, same thing. There's actually a couple Birds on the front. They put in a little digger, and Wally, a couple wheels up, you see him keep it stitched up. He puts in a little effort to make sure that those guys don't get away. And then Micah, he's 3 wheels in front of me. He just slips in and conserves his energy. Another really great job to make sure that we're shutting down those moves and staying in the mix. All right, with 2 laps to go, we got Wally in front of me and Micah right behind me in my rear cam, and I am absolutely salivating. I'm kind of surprised that we were able to get all 3 of us at the front of the race with 2 laps to go to hopefully organize this lead out train for Micah. So we're all stoked, we're all in line, and then the pace picks up because coming up on my right hip, you're gonna have Big Bird. He's Big Bird because if you look in the rear cam, you have Little Bird, his son, which first of all is so sick. I mean, I wish my dad was leading me out in the last lap, but he doesn't ride bikes. So this guy, number 1 dad, mad props. Anyways, in this situation, I just want to keep this thing stitched up, make sure that we still got 1 lap to get this thing figured out, and just keep everything super close. Going into the last lap, we got Big Bird in front, Little Bird behind me, and then Micah behind him, and we got the bell lap. I'm going to pass it over to Micah to get his view on the last 2 laps with his footage.
Just prior to starting, Taylor whispered to me, hey, let's get you the win. So we can see Taylor moves up, and I could tell Taylor's intent was to line up the sprint for me and lead me out. The scene behind him was, at the same time he made that move, the Birds team also had a very similar idea. They had a 2-man group. Taylor lets the lead-out Bird guy go in the front, so we have Bird, Bobs, Bird, Bobs.
So you can see me in front of Mike. I keep looking back, trying to figure out how I'm going to get him on my wheel in order to push the pace even higher. But to be honest, Micah was cool as a cucumber in this moment. I think he kind of looked at this a little bit different than me and wasn't worried at all. So this is going into that bell lap. And just like Micah said, we got birds, me, another bird, and him. So we'll kick it back over to him and see how this all played out for the final lap.
It worked out really, really well because I knew what the bird was up to and that he was going to jump and he was going to put in a huge attack. And I was positioned right on his wheel. So when he jumps, boom, I'm right there with him. And what's interesting is that bird put in a lot of effort in that on that bell lap. And what he may not have realized was how much I was coasting. It's the bird using energy and me drafting right along behind him. I knew coming into the final corner that he had been struggling throughout the whole race to handle that corner at such a high speed. So that's why you see me go out really wide like that. It's not because I was trying to get him from there. My intent was to stay behind him till much closer to the finish line. But I literally coasted through that corner and carried so much more speed because I took such a better line. You see me come across and I duck back in behind him. I suddenly catch the full force of his draft, and I immediately had to leap out of it because I would have otherwise had to hit my brakes because, again, I was carrying so much more speed. I have to admit, super exciting. I've never been in a position all these years of racing to be sprinting for that very moment of, is this going to be first place? Can I get my wheel across that line? That was definitely exciting for me. Set a new 5-second PR for my 5-second power. That was really fun to get that achievement and finally get on a podium in a sprint.
I couldn't be more hyped for Micah. He's basically the glue that keeps our team going, making sure everybody's getting better, and super happy for him. All right, race number 2 on the night. This is the Cat 3-4 field. If you watched the video from last week, I tried a solo break partway through the race, and it was a very big failure. And for whatever reason, a group just got caught, and I thought, hey, this is a really great time to counter. So I throw out a 1,300 watt little dig here, go off the front thinking, someone's got to follow me. Look back, no one is interested. And it's another hot day. I put the temperature in the upper left corner there. It's almost 106, and I think it gets hotter than that throughout the race here. Anyways, at this point, no one comes. I get a good gap. And mostly just because I didn't want to look like a complete idiot, I just kept going. And maybe this is just me, but I feel like when I'm on a solo break, I lose all perception of time and space and go into this weird zone where I think that the race is almost over. Like, I was super confused as to why the official wasn't flipping the lap card over. Turns out we still had like 20 minutes of racing left, maybe more. The other problem is there's a few guys on my team that were in the race that we just finished, and every time I passed them, they're clapping and cheering for me to keep going. When in reality, a true friend would have said, "Hey, whoa there, big fella. Take a cheeseburger and relax." So I figured if I wanted any chance at the field sprint, I needed to get out of this time warp and realize it wasn't happening. The other thing that was going on in my mind is Twilight is this Saturday, and I'm hoping that it comes down to a field sprint. So why am I out here trying to practice this breakaway? I gave myself enough rest to give a little bit of an effort just to make sure that I don't get dropped when the field comes through right here. Much like last week, this race turned into a Bob's versus St. Al's showdown right here. Bob's rider takes a flyer. One of the St. Al's guys covers that. And then 2 wheels in front of me, you got Brian, Bob's rider, and he just kind of sits up and slows everything down and allows that gap to open up. And then right here on the right, you got Eric in the Team Real kit. He probably may have wanted to be part of that, but I mean, you got these guys on the front now, both St. Al's and a Bob's rider, kind of blocking and slowing the pace down, which, I mean, if you're not on either one of those teams, you're not in a very good spot at this point. So with a Bob's and a St. Al's guy up the road, Eric there on the left, he snaps off a big effort to start his bridge attempt. And I mean, to be honest, these guys are probably more than a half a lap up on us at this point. For a while, people chase it, but you can see right there, Eric's got a great gap, and he's going to go for the bridge. With this effort that Eric puts in, you can see in front and also in the rear cam, this strings the field out quite a bit and sped things up. And so at this point, I mean, the race is probably about halfway through, maybe a little bit more, and the field is completely splintered. I am gassed, and so I fall into this spot right here, basically, I guess a chase group. A few minutes later, things come back together, slows down, and this guy right here on the left is feeling a little bit froggy, so he stands up and gives a little effort. I call it out, hoping that someone else will keep that close. I did not want to chase that down. A few laps later, fortunately enough, we did catch him. He's right there in the black. With 5 laps to go, this guy in front of me, he decides to put in a big effort here. I end up going with it. I've been sitting back, recovered enough. And I mean, at this point, we're racing for 4th, I guess, because we have the 3 riders up the road. Maybe we catch one of them in these last few laps. Anyways, I decide to go with it. After the gap opens up pretty big, I pull off, and actually Talon here pulls through along with Brian here coming through. And then I slip in, and we cover that move just to keep everything together here in the last closing laps. With about a lap and a half to go, we come into this headwind section, and out of the corner of my eye, I see this guy put this effort in, and so I jump on his wheel. And I mean, if you look, I did over 1,300 watts just to get on his wheel, and this is kind of when things start getting super strung out here. This guy's really strong. I knew he'd be a good wheel to follow, and I'm burning matches just trying to get on his wheel and take corners as best I can to conserve as much energy as I can. A few guys are following us. Once again, hit over 1,000 watts in this straight section to get on his wheel. So, I mean, at this point, we're racing for, I think, 4th or 5th. I can't remember now. A few guys went up the road and a few guys came back. But for me, we have the Twilight Criterium on Saturday, just a few days away. And so this is our last tune-up race. And I really wanted to get a good sprint effort in. And I knew this guy, I mean, he's obviously on the front. I knew he had a decent sprint. At the same time, I mean, he'd just done a lap and a half on the front, full gas. And so I knew I potentially had a little bit left in the tank. So come around, this is the last stretch. Crack off my sprint, he does the same. And I mean, to be honest, I did more watts just getting on his wheel than it took to get around him. He was toast, I was toast. But like I said, I think that was 4th or 5th. So super hyped for Saturday. We're just a day and a half away from the time this goes live. And I have high hopes for myself. I mean, I know when I cross that finish line, Justin Williams is going to be there with a Legion kit. He's going to be like, yo, dude, you want to join Legion? I'm going to be like, man, thanks for the offer, but no, I already have a team. And he's going to be like, come on, man. I'm going to be like, sorry, bro, can't. And it's just going to kind of be awkward, but I got to be loyal to my teammates. If you're interested, I'm going to leave the link to the live stream for Twilight. I think they're live streaming all the races, which would be sweet. But I'll put that in the description along with the website to Twilight and all that. Anyways, thanks as always for watching, and we'll see you Saturday.